Most businesses don't lose money because their finance department make one-off mistakes. Most businesses lose money because their finance department is frankly messy. And when a finance department is messy, things start to go wrong, and then that has a knock-on. And that knock-on affects multiple things in that organisation. It might affect things like pricing, reporting, decision-making, board support. All of that sort of thing comes from a messy finance department. So in today's video, we're going to look about how do we tidy up your finance department and remove the mess. First thing to look out for is if the team are taking a long time to get to basic answers. So if they're taking a long time to produce month end, for example, if it's taken them several weeks to close the month end and get reports out, that's normally an indicator that the internal processes within that finance department are not great or the systems are not great. So that's indicator number one. The second area is around invoicing. If invoicing is a bit haphazard, perhaps things aren't being invoiced in a timely way, and by that I mean getting invoices out quickly once the job is done. If that piece is haphazard, if the credit control is haphazard, that's another lead indicator that your finance department is perhaps leaking and is not as efficient as it could be. Next area is if you're getting surprise tax bills. So if your finance department is on it and is looking at your tax position, then you shouldn't have any surprises. You know, the VAT, that normally comes out quarterly for most businesses, some it comes out monthly. But if it's coming out quarterly, you should have, you should know in advance what that VAT liability is going to look like, and therefore you should be prepared for that cash cost when it arises in your business, and therefore you've got the money to actually pay your VAT. But again, it comes back to how efficient your finance department is in being able to calculate that VAT and give you the number in plenty of time before it needs to be paid. Next area is overhead creep. So a good finance department will be involved in looking at the overheads of a business. They'll be looking at scrutinising the cost base of the business to see where there's potential opportunity to trim costs. And they'll be working with the organisation, working with the business, and working with potential budget holders in the business to manage the finances and look for opportunities to, not necessarily to just cut costs, but to look for more value with suppliers. So that might be about talking to suppliers, negotiating with suppliers and driving value. It might not just be about cost cutting, but it's about getting better value from your suppliers. And again, a good finance organisation would normally be working with the wider organisation, budget holders, different departments, to look at cost base and see where there's opportunities to reduce costs. The next area is around leadership. Are you finding in your organisation that leadership is being sucked into the day-to-day administration of a firm? Your finance department should be doing the administration. It should be running the books. It should be running the transactions. You shouldn't need senior leadership to be involved in running the finance department. The finance department should be feeding the leadership team with the key numbers, with the key performance indicators that they need to run the business. They should just be informed. They shouldn't be involved in the day-to-day running of that finance department. So if any of this sort of resonates with you, if you're looking at your finance department thinking, actually, we definitely got some of that going on, and frankly, it's not unusual. Most finance departments are not perfect. There's always room for improvement. But if you are looking at your finance department and thinking, well, actually, we could be doing more here, or we need to make changes, then look at your options. And your options might be, firstly identifying what is going wrong, and then coming up with solutions to address that. It might be looking at other alternatives, and one of those alternatives might be an outsourced finance department. So should we outsource some of this finance function to an outsourced provider, or do we need to improve what we're doing in-house? So all of those things, hopefully, if you're looking at your business, looking at your finance department and looking at your business, hopefully some of that is useful to how you can improve your finance function. If that's been useful, please let us know.